you knock it off right now, it's gone! Jeanty with room launches! Kaboom! From another time zone. This is comical, cartoonish, and downright ridiculous. Yo, welcome back for Season 2, Episode 13 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Last week, the Knicks came within a couple of games of the NBA Finals and still fired their head coach Tom Thibodeau. Saquon Barkley was revealed to be the Madden 26 cover athlete and the next target, perhaps, of the Madden curse. And the Colorado Rockies continue their valiant efforts to best, or I guess to worst, the 2024 Chicago White Sox as the team with the worst record in the modern era. And the biggest news of all that was just rolling in as I was recording last week, the Pittsburgh Steelers officially signed Aaron Rodgers to a one-year, $13.65 million deal. I talked a lot about the significance of it, but now because the base salary is one, finally revealed, and two, so low on paper, I want to give you the details on the incentives too. Let's start with that. We always call it betting on themselves when a veteran takes a one-year deal without a massive relative base pay. I don't think it's really the case here, given Rodgers' age and the fact that this is almost certainly his retirement tour this year, but nonetheless, he can turn that 13-plus mil into a little bit more. The biggest chunks possible are for winning MVP and for winning a Super Bowl, of course. The oldest guy to ever do either of those things as a starting quarterback, you'll never guess, it was Tom Brady. That seems now, as I think about it, entirely unnecessary to state. Some other things that could be more attainable for Rodgers, especially if he can lean on DK Metcalf, and if they can get a little bit of something out of the run game, he could earn $500,000 for a playoff berth, $600,000 for a wildcard win, $750K for a divisional playoff win, and a cool mill for winning the AFC. My best bet is that Mike Tomlin is going to do that thing that he does every single year. He leads a team that has no business having a winning record to a 9-8 or a 10-7 mark, and we'll all kind of hate it and be a little bit upset about it, and his black magic will probably continue for at least one more year. Now that is the last I hope to hear of Aaron Rodgers until week 1 of the regular season. Fingers crossed, please. This week, I am going to start on some fantasy rankings. I've already begun poring over the spreadsheets, and I've checked in on some of my favorite blogs. I've followed some new fantasy football creators, that sort of thing. And the first list I'm going to make is the Rookie Watch. This will be all for PPR or point per reception league formats. If you're not a fantasy vet, you can either look that up right now anywhere you'd like, or refer to Season 1, Episode 24 for the very first fantasy football advice segment I ever did. Shortly afterward, I started calling it Fantasy Football Friday, and I made it pretty much a weekly occurrence, and man, I really got into it. Last year's rookie skill positions were some of the best the league has ever seen. The Giants' Malik Neighbors was the most targeted player in the entire league on a per-game rate, 11.3 targets a game. That's something that Jerry Rice never saw, Randy Moss never saw, Terrell Owens never saw. These inner circle, probably the consensus, roughly, top 3 best receivers of all time. There's Calvin Johnson, who once went 12.75 targets a game and had the single-season record for targets. That was back in 2012. But essentially, that 11.3 mark a game is about as high as you will ever see any receiver targeted in a year. In short, that was a product of an awful Giants offense with very little other receiving threats. Brian Thomas Jr. went 23rd to the Jags and proceeded to be a top 5 receiver in the league by the eye test and by PPR scoring. Jaden Daniels with the Commanders. Oh my goodness, he rewrote the rookie record books in pretty much every way, went to the NFC Championship. Brock Bowers was the best tight end in the entire league, in my opinion. He was first-team All-Pro. He set rookie tight end records that might never be touched. Are you getting the feel yet of how insane rookies were this past year? When one of these rookies is stepping into a really great situation for them to succeed, you have to be willing to draft them high in fantasy and not worry too much about lack of experience. Let's hop into it, ranking the top 5 best rookie skill position players to draft in fantasy this year. Going from the bottom up at number 5, I'm going to start with the Panthers wide receiver Tetaroa McMillan. He still has the most difficult name in the class. He's also the tallest receiver in this class and one of the tallest in the league right away. He's a hair under 6'5". That's one of the reasons why I like him. It's also about how good he looks in OTAs and camp running routes, considering that size. Social media video can be deceiving, obviously, but McMillan went for over 16 yards a catch in his college career with 26 touchdowns in those 3 years. Bryce Young at quarterback, he's probably starting to turn the corner. I think he is going to be a long-term, dependable NFL starter based on what we saw in the second half of last year. McMillan gonna be the number 3 target, you would think, for the Panthers at worst, and he should be a really good red zone option right away. He'll probably be drafted in the middle rounds, something like 7th or 8th, with real good value to be had. The number 4 best rookie in fantasy is Jaguars wide receiver Travis Hunter, the most unique player in the draft and could quickly become the most unique player the league has ever seen if all the hype dies down and he is truly a two-way player. They gave up a first rounder for next year, they swapped a first rounder and more for this year to draft Travis Hunter, and their depth chart already lists him as their number 2 receiver. He doesn't have elite size and strength at roughly 6'1", 185, but the way he attacks the ball and his speed, both in long and short stride kind of situations, those are skills that you cannot ignore. Many people think rookie receiver play is super dependent on having a good quarterback, which Hunter doesn't exactly have, but that couldn't have been further from the case last year with guys like Bowers or Neighbors. They had multiple below-average quarterbacks and thrived. I think that is a possibility with Travis Hunter, especially if Trevor Lawrence comes back and shows what he's always meant to be this year. Number 3 is Browns running back Quinshon Judkins. Ohio State running backs have been this good for so many decades. Judkins and Trevion Henderson were teammates there, and obviously they went on to win a national championship together. It was a 1A and 1B situation where, man, either of these guys are just as good as the other. They just do some different things. They went within 2 picks of each other in the draft and everything. Super cool. Judkins was picked with the 4th pick of the 2nd round, and he will start for the Browns, presumably right away, as Nick Chubb did sign with the Texans on a 1-year deal. The Browns are a team that's going to need to run the football. They typically get some very quietly good offensive line play, especially on their interior. And Judkins, he's one of those running backs to circle this year, and you'd say, hey, I bet you this guy is going under the radar and it's going to be a lot better than people think because he's going to have good opportunities. Coming in at number 2, it's a Jim Harbaugh special. Omarion Hampton is probably going to be a day 1 starter with the Chargers. Their top 2 running backs from last year, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, are both gone. Rookie running backs are, of course, not as popular to draft as rookie wide receivers, especially considering the kinds of wide receiver performances from rookies that we've seen in the last 5 years or so. You got to start thinking about this. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, these are some of the best rookie receiving seasons of all time that have happened just since 2020. The biggest reason to like Hampton is his head coach, truly. Jim Harbaugh will always build a football team that runs the ball really well. He's also a 4.46 40 guy. That's very solid. He's 6 foot, 220 pounds, and he likes to play the battering ram role. He looks for contact. Plus, he caught the ball pretty well at North Carolina. Running backs that also catch the ball are some of my favorite fantasy assets, and if they also get a lot of red zone carries like you expect on a Jim Harbaugh team, you can expect him to score plenty of touchdowns. Great formula. And for the best rookie skill player to target in all of fantasy football this year, the one player everyone believes is going to come right out of the gate as a Pro Bowler and a dominant running back, Ashton Jeanty, Las Vegas Raiders. It's rare to find the Raiders on the positive end of any kind of list. Jeanty is the archetype that I love the most. The bowling ball type, we'll call it. They're about 5'8". He's pushing 220 pounds or so. And these guys look just as much like bodybuilders as they do football players. He didn't even have to work out at the combine, seeing as he had just run for 2,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, getting 27 carries a game against 8- and 9-man boxes. It was one of the most dominant seasons by anyone in college football in a long time, yet he still came second to Travis Hunter in the Heisman voting. We won't talk about that right now. The Raiders didn't get much better all around him. That's the one part that concerns me. They're roughly in the bottom quarter of offensive line rankings or so, depending on what kind of stats you look at. But Jeanty wasn't playing with a bunch of NFL caliber offensive linemen at Boise State. He's still going to be fed heavily. He will still be able to run over really good NFL players on day one, and he should have by far the biggest, most consistent role and workload of any rookie skill position player, period. He will have every chance in the world to shine with the Raiders. Couple of honorable mentions, which are mostly inspired by news and highlight clips from training camp, to be honest with you. The Titans' number 1 overall pick, of course, was Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami. He looks like he should be a quality starter in year 1. And honestly, that's exceedingly rare, to come in, take the starting job immediately as a rookie, and start a full season, let alone succeed. He looks great, though. His mobility was always going to be there. His arm and accuracy has been the number 1 thing getting praised. Then our other honorable mention, in no particular order really, is Tyler Warren, the Colts tight end. He was always supposed to be the number 1 tight end off the board out of Penn State, and I still think he's more talented than Colston Loveland from Michigan, who went before him. The Colts haven't had a tight end go for 500 yards or more since 2018, and whether it's Anthony Richardson or it's Daniel Jones starting for them, they should both know to rely on Warren. The biggest thing he's going to give you is a receiving threat at all 3 levels. He ran a 4.68 40 at the combine, which is a solid time for a tight end, but it's really the way that he finishes routes and gets separation as a 6'6" behemoth that you so rarely see. I'm not going to call him the next Tony Gonzalez or Rob Gronkowski or name your favorite tight end until he goes out there and earns it, but there will be a ton of opportunity, and they'll definitely tailor their playbook to him, moving him around and getting good matchups just like he always did at Penn State. There's going to be a ton more of these quick little lists, rankings, and tips and tricks before we get to fantasy drafts. I'm going to try to get commitments from my league or leagues, maybe. And we'll see how many I end up playing in the next couple of weeks because I'm just desperately in need of football. Next segment up. Now, if you've ever read my original profile description of this show on Spotify, you'll know that I mentioned wanting to cover esports and strength sports regularly at some point. I haven't done that so far, but I've waded into pretty much every kind of waters at one point or another, hit on something. After doing play-by-play for a couple of powerlifting meets and putting a strongman competition on my schedule to stream for next weekend too, I'm going to have a little strength sports segment all about media and distribution. If you totally don't care at all, just leave it playing in the background and recommend and share the episode anyway, thank you. When it comes to strength sports, there are some sort of world championships in pretty much everything nowadays. Strongman has the World's Strongest Man competition. Powerlifting has SBD Sheffield and the IPF World Championships, which serve some different functions. But as we go, I will explain more about each of these, just tossing some names out for you. The World Arm Wrestling Federation has World Championships. Olympic weightlifting, well, that's super obvious, right? They have the Olympics. Unfortunately, weightlifting is only in the Summer Olympics, which is dumb because they compete inside. You know, that's never really made a whole lot of sense to me. But they also have World Championships each year. And it irks me to no end to say that not a single one of these disciplines or sports or whatever you want to call them try hard enough with their media. There aren't very many unifying bodies or federations or true authorities that everyone recognizes in any of these sports, and that's one of the things that holds everything back. Organizations come and go, sometimes every year. They fail to get the requisite amount of sponsorship at every level, and what could become mainstream continues to stay niche all the time. I'm not going to roll out some simple, 4 or 5 step plan that would completely fix everything, but I have a few thoughts on the issue like you might imagine. First of all, the IPF, or International Powerlifting Federation, is, of course, the governing body of the sport since 1972. It's nice to find one of these sports that actually has one of those, some sort of international authority. Their World Championships started on this past Sunday. That's kind of an L on its own to start on a Sunday. And they run for a week through this Sunday, June 15th in Germany. I'm a pretty big nerd in the sport, and I had no idea they were going on at all until I got their stream recommended to me on YouTube. There is a lot to unpack with that. let's give an analogy here. Could you imagine the Super Bowl being streamed on YouTube? Could you imagine the NFL's combined following on Instagram and Facebook being less than 1 million people? Could you imagine not having a direct link to the stream of your world championships on every social media post that comes out during that week and well before and even well after? Could you imagine having a live stream heading on your website, and when you go to click on it, you aren't taken directly to any of those aforementioned world championship streams currently going on, nor any archives or footage of anything that's already finished? If you're starting to get the picture here, this is self-sabotage. That's just one sport too. That's just powerlifting, albeit it's the one I'm most familiar with. For a lot of people, World's Strongest Man is one of the first, if not the very first thing they think about when they hear the term strength sports. It's the top international strongman competition in the world. If you're not familiar, the best way to define strongman is probably that they're the enormous people who use funny-looking implements and they lift odd-looking stuff. They have certain iconic events that make it into a lot of competitions: Atlas stones, heavy loading and carrying events, wagon wheel deadlifts, log presses, things like that. What do they do for media coverage at that event, you may be asking? The worst thing they could possibly choose to do. They do not stream the event live anywhere. I'm guessing you could find some people that are posted up in the crowd streaming it, off their iPhone, but I believe that the actual footage is usually shot by CBS, and it takes 6 weeks or more to be made available. During that time, the athletes, the reporters, the writers, the coaches, I believe, they can all publish all of these results, but no one can actually watch the competition beyond what's just on, people's social media videos. I hear that the reason is World's Strongest Man has an exclusive rights contract with CBS that goes back almost 50 years, and it's going to run out soon, but I'm not 100% certain that that's true. The competition footage from 2024 just hit YouTube about 8 months after the competition. It's nice that it was eventually offered for free, but whoever approved this kind of model should be severely punished. I'm not kidding. They should be immediately replaced with someone who cares about growth of the sport. Everyone knows the result, like I say, right when the event ends. Live scores are entered online. Most people who are into strongman are die-hard fans. There aren't that many casuals, really, that just sort of dabble with it. Those die-hard fans, they would pay to watch live if you wanted to put a paywall on it, if you felt like you needed to put a paywall on it to help your profit margins. And CBS already has, I don't even know how many live stream options, honestly. They have their own app. They have Paramount Plus. They own Hulu, right? This and that, and probably other things that I'm never even going to try. Still, one of the most baffling media situations out there. To take it back to American pro sports again, it's so laughable to imagine the World Series is being played in October, and then people can't watch it until after the holidays. The World's Strongest Man competition and the whole sport will never, ever get out of the niche, no matter how cool it is, until they break that contract, agree to a new one, and have some sort of coverage that actually makes sense for the biggest competition of their sport in the world. So my inspiration for really going in on strength sports today was that powerlifting meet I covered on Saturday. It was one of those where you get in there and you're standing around, looking around, like the John Travolta meme. Is that from Pulp Fiction, right, with holding the coat in his arm? And it took so long to get that stream started that we actually missed covering the first couple of attempts. There was a wireless camera that was feeding its audio in addition to my headset mic audio, and it sounded funny. The gym's Wi-Fi was spotty, so the quality wasn't all that good. All these are little things, but they compound, they snowball, and they turn into the really big things that hold the sports back from ever being as big as they should be. In my experience, people like watching this stuff a lot. They think it's all really cool. The issues run deeper than just publicity in all strength sports. I'll be the first one to admit that. But being a media guy, I will keep it to just media issues for right now. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk on that if you didn't care about it. And we are just about to wrap up. The Pacers have a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals, and of course Tyrese Halliburton hit a game winner in Game 1. It is an all-time generational run that he's on with those, all because I said there wouldn't be any buzzer beaters or crazy finishes in my predictions, naturally. Maybe the Pacers are truly the team of destiny, and maybe they're out to shock the world. Aaron Judge might still be having the greatest baseball season ever, ? And the NCAA just passed a legit revenue sharing plan with athletes after a U.S. District Court decision. Former D1 athletes from 2016 to now can get damages for NIL money that they could have made, and current athletes will now be eligible to be paid directly by schools. These are some fun but crazy times. Check out all my socials, and as always, leave a like, comment, and share. This has been Season 2, Episode 13 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, no.
Oh, you knock it off right now. It's gone. Jeanty with room launches. Kaboom! From another time zone. This is comical, cartoonish, and downright ridiculous.